On the last occasion, I gave you a glimpse of what this YouTube channel is all about. I was actually very reluctant to start this YouTube channel, but I'm motivated by what I saw over the last 3 years to embark on a voyage of discovery on what it takes to be more innovative. Over the last 3 years, as you know, Sri Lanka went through 2 or 3 significant, very turbulent storms. The first of these storms was, of course, COVID-19, which changed the way people do business almost overnight. Almost overnight, people were forced to work from home and still, for the purpose of business continuity, interact with their customers. Initially, people did not know how to do that. But then sooner or later, people worked together to formulate new strategies, more innovative strategies on how to interact with their customers and do business. Almost overnight, people adopted implements such as Zoom, Google Meet in order to meet with their customers. Schools adopted such technologies in order to teach their students. Business still took place. Business still happened. Goods and services were distributed amongst the people. People initially did not know how, but they found a way. They found a way by thinking innovatively and adapting and adopting new measures in order to stay relevant. Soon after COVID-19, in Sri Lanka especially, we saw significant economic downturn, which brought about shortages in essential items such as fuel and gasoline. This too crippled the way we do business. However, Sri Lankans, we saw, were forced to cycle to work, were forced to walk to work. We worked together in order to, we carpooled in order to go to work. Businesses worked in such a way that they reduced their electricity consumption in order to do business. People looked at how to make a saving and how to be profitable at the same time. People were forced to think outside the box. Soon after, there was a period of economic instability. But however, Sri Lanka came out, and now Sri Lanka embarks on a new journey where we have just obtained an IMF loan, and we are looking to steer a new path to success and economic achievement. However, if one is to look at the lessons that were learned over the last 3 years, we will see that Sri Lanka and Sri Lankans as a nation were very resilient and had vast capabilities of adapting to change. And lots of companies not only survived during this last 3 years, but thrived in being able to export products to their global customers. So there are many lessons that can be learned over the last 3 years. And I think it's very important to dissect each of those lessons and embark on trying to understand what makes companies innovative and what is the importance of innovation in order to steer Sri Lanka and the companies within Sri Lanka to greater economic advancement and success. Apart from these storms that Sri Lanka faced, I see there to be another storm that we might face in the future. And that is that of relevance in the global marketplace. Now, as you know, Sri Lanka has been a seller of commodities for the longest period of time. We've been selling things like tea, rubber, coconut, Ayurvedic products, spices, gems and jewelry, etc. And we've excelled in that. But however, as you know, excuse me, there are several competitors in the region that have the advantage of what we call economy of scale. Now, if you look at India, China, Bangladesh, Vietnam, all these countries have large mega factories in order to produce the same goods and services that we produce, or goods that we produce. As a result of economy of scale, which is a reality, it is a factual reality, they are able to produce at a much lower standpoint than what Sri Lanka can produce, given that we are a small island nation. As a result of which, even though we produce excellent produce, we are unable to sell that produce at the price point to which these economic giants are able to sell. This puts Sri Lanka at a significant disadvantage when it comes to selling goods and services on a global marketplace. Now, how does Sri Lanka tackle this problem moving forward? And how do we learn from lessons that we have learned, especially in innovation and in adapting to the challenges that may come our way in order to stay more relevant. Now, if one takes an example from the garments and textile industry, you can see that most of our garment and textile companies have chosen to innovate in order to stay more relevant. This is also given that they have chosen not to compete on a price strategy model, but compete on an intellectual property and innovation standpoint. And that has increasingly made these companies far more relevant in time to come. Simply because Sri Lankan labor is not cheap. Sri Lankan labor is getting increasingly more and more expensive. And we are having issues with getting more and more labor in the marketplace, not just in textiles, but in almost every industry. So how does Sri Lanka compete, and what are the lessons that we can learn in the background of being more relevant geopolitically? If I'm to give a humble opinion, I believe that there is a lot of value that can be made in creating new products, new services, and in the process of value creation, creating value to drive demand, consumer demand towards Sri Lanka and towards the goods and services that we produce. Now, an example of that can be seen in, say, America. I know this is a cliched, much used example, but the fact of the matter is America has a population of about 330 million people. Now, that is a very large country. But when you compare it with giants such as India and China, you see that the American population is insignificant in comparison. Now, China has a population of 1.4 billion and so does India. Now, how does America compete? And one strategy that has always amazed me is that they are increasingly more and more strategic when it comes to the creation of intellectual property and creation of innovative products, goods and services. And that is seen very clearly based on the products you and I use on a day-to-day basis. Now, be it the latest technology that we adopt online, be it our social media tools that we use, they seem to be all mostly American products, American derived products, other than maybe TikTok that is taking the world by storm. But regardless of which, the world is in the habit of using a lot of American products. And if one is to break down as to why that is, it's simply because a lot of these products work at the cutting edge of technology. And being at the cutting edge of technology, they are able to drive demand towards American companies. So one clear takeaway that I can take from that is there's a very positive correlation between being in the cusp of innovation, and driving, creating new novel products, goods and services to economic success. And essentially that's what I want to talk about in the course of this YouTube channel. What are the key takeaways that one can take from innovative companies and how it can be adopted to our very own companies in Sri Lanka in order to drive innovation and most certainly in order to drive demand towards our products and to be more relevant in a global marketplace. So to recap, I was talking about the third storm that maybe Sri Lanka will face in time to come, that of price relevancy or relevancy in the marketplace. I feel the answer to that is that for Sri Lankan companies to take cognizance of where we stand in the global marketplace, adapt innovative thinking, adapt innovative processes to see how we can become more relevant to global demand. And for that, I believe our companies need to be more innovative, need to think more innovative, and need to adopt the different characteristics that I will illustrate further on in the course of the channel, that are characteristics of innovative companies. And throughout, well, a project over the last 3 years for me personally has been to try and identify what are these different characteristics of innovative companies. And I have identified about 5 or 6. And each of these different components we will discuss in each of the different episodes that will follow this episode. So until then, thanks for following me. Like and subscribe as what's usually said, and follow my channel. And let's engage. Please also engage with me personally, and give me feedback with regards to what I'm describing and saying. And let's see whether we can create a sort of dialogue and interest-based group as to how we can make Sri Lankan companies more relevant in a global marketplace, to be more innovative in its approach to its customers. I thank you for following me.